Hi, I'm Lucy Zola. I study a Bachelor of Contemporary Art at the University of South Australia. I just finished my undergrad degree and I'm about to enter into my honours year. I mainly focus on experimental film, sound and ceramics. The intention behind my work, Extrospection, was to explore my own issues with social anxiety. I think after spending a really long time alone, and I had been in Spain as well before the coronavirus pandemic happened, it was really anxiety provoking for me to enter back into society and try and reconnect with friends and social groups. And I just really started to understand how much anxiety this caused me. I felt really watched and monitored, but I was also really aware that this was kind of in my head. It wasn't necessarily how people were looking at me. So I really wanted to explore those issues and use that as a way of kind of understanding, I guess almost as like a bit of a therapy. And I also really wanted to share this experience with other people because I'm very aware that a lot of people experience these feelings. So my work was really intended to be very immersive, and with the combination of the sounds and the experimental film, it aims to take the viewer on a bit of like an emotional journey. So the film and the sound doesn't have like a narrative meaning. It is supposed to just elicit different feelings and emotions so that the viewer experiences the same feelings that I'm experiencing. I also added a ceramic body cast, which was of my own body, which was also to represent, I guess, the feelings of people judging you as like the social shell. That's what people see. That's what I felt. One of the things I felt that people kind of were judging and looking at me about. So that was also really therapeutic, I guess, to take a cast of my own body.
Did you find the process rather cathartic to express the social anxiety themes, or did you find the end product where the viewers could look and be immersed in the work rather cathartic?
I think for me, I found the process of making it the most kind of therapeutic, especially when I took the cast of my own body. It was really kind of uncomfortable for me, and I did it at uni and I had kind of 4 people in my degree take this cast of my body and I was nude. I was pretty uncomfortable at first, but by the end I just kind of felt like, oh, look, it's fine. Like, this is just, you know, we all have a body, it's okay. Like, they're not judging me. This is all just kind of fun, and I by the end of it I didn't feel uncomfortable. So in my work I took a lot of videos and sounds from the world, both imagery that I felt kind of elicited anxious responses and imagery that made me feel like calm and really appreciate the world around me. So I found definitely exploring my environment, and especially exploring, I guess, like the beautiful landscape that we have, was really lovely, and it was a really nice way for me to also kind of settle back into life here because I was feeling a bit ungrounded.
How do you feel the surround sound affects the viewer in their viewing of your work?
I think that was the aspect that makes it so immersive and kind of transports the viewer to another place. If you stand in the middle of my work, there are like lots of different sounds going on around you, and I made it so you could hear people walking around or like breathing behind you and different things like that. So I think it kind of makes it more of a realistic experience. Although I want people to watch the film, I found especially if you close your eyes and listen to the sounds, you almost feel like you could, like it all just could be happening around you, which I really wanted to achieve.
Yeah. Do you think being a musician assisted in the collection and collating and producing of the sounds and surround system?
Yeah, definitely, especially because I wrote music to go along with it, and also my partner helped me with it too, and he's a musician, so he played some of the instruments and kind of taught me how to use some of the equipment because I had never recorded in surround sound before. Neither had he. We kind of like worked out how to do it. But yeah, definitely being a musician really helped. Having recorded things in the past on my own helped. Yeah, I guess just having that kind of sense of sound and always, I guess, experiencing my environment in sound and paying a lot of attention to sound really helped me to, I guess, reproduce different, like landscapes in sounds.
So we talked a bit about how viewers feel when they watch Extrospection and how you felt when you made it, but how do you feel when you watched it?
I guess I see a lot of the hard work. It's probably a little bit of a different experience to me than somebody else would have because I made it. I can see every image and where it was from. When I watch it, I can see that I filmed that crowd in the markets, or, that was the uni electricity tower kind of thing. So it's a little bit different. I definitely do experience the emotions that I am also trying to elicit in my viewer, and I enjoy listening to the music, which is quite rare for me. I often struggle to listen to things that I've produced myself, and I do really feel like it transports me to another place. The anxious parts do make me feel anxious and I like listening to the calm bits of the music. And yeah, watching the films, I do see it as kind of almost like I'm letting go of those feelings, and a lot of it was about like experiencing this, acknowledging it and moving on. So I do kind of get that from the work too.
So Extrospection is a follow-up from your original film piece, Introspection. How does Extrospection vary or build from that?
Introspection was actually a more positive work, and it was about feeling isolated, but I guess my experience of that was quite positive because I felt like when I was separated from society, I really learnt who I was when like nobody else's opinion mattered. So that work was really positive, and it was about more looking internally to find meaning and about accepting that and how good and kind of freeing that was. So that was made when I was in isolation, and then Extrospection was, I guess followed on from that, but was almost like the flip side of it. The feelings returning of feeling monitored and feeling that social anxiety again, but also then I guess learning how, you can't always just be isolated from society, and it's not actually like a good thing in the long term. I guess that one's more looking out and looking at the world and looking at how people see you, but also just accepting that and learning to see things differently.
Do you hope to create more bodies of film and sound work, perhaps a follow-up from Extrospection, or will you move in a different direction?
Yeah, I'm definitely really excited to continue working in sound and film. I might start to do it less about my own experience and more generalised and more of the world. This year or next year, whenever it happens, I'm going to Nepal to create my work. So those works, I'm not quite sure what the concept or the meaning will be behind them yet, but I'm going to work with an artist in Nepal and create works of different landscapes. So translate these into experimental film and sound so that people can experience, I guess, the emotional essence of the place rather than how you would generally, I guess, record a landscape. It'll be more of like an emotional kind of feeling and understanding of it. So I'm quite excited to make those.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you have the capacity to now move in a new direction and take the skills you've already learned and apply them to an entirely new space and country. Do you think that you will ever continue to focus on social anxiety in your work? Is that a thing that will always run through at some level, or do you feel like you've kind of focused on that for now and move on?
I think it'll definitely return in my work. With anxiety and mental health issues, it's always kind of, well, for me at least, it's always cyclical. Like I experience it, I struggle with it, I kind of get better, I move on from it, but I always know that it'll come back at some point. Art definitely kind of reflects your current feelings, what you're going through, so I'm sure it'll definitely re-enter into my work at some point. At the moment, I feel like I have really addressed it in my work, but yeah, I think mental health has definitely been a recurring theme in my artwork since I first started.
Do you find that there's a lot of artists that already talk about it, or do you wish that even on a local scale you saw more talking about mental health with their art?
I think definitely in the past kind of few years, and I'm sure for like a long time as well, maybe since this is more just since I've been paying attention to it, I've definitely seen a lot out there about mental health, and I think it's really good because it's really good to just be able to openly talk about it. So I definitely think it's something that is addressed, but it's definitely an important topic, and everybody's experience of it is different. So, you know, even if the way that I experience social anxiety, somebody else really like relates to and can get some kind of like feeling that someone else is going through the same thing as them, then that's really nice.
So before you were mentioning that you were in Spain when COVID hit, and that's kind of how you fell into doing the film and sound. Before that, did you have any idea that you would get into this kind of work?
Well, I had done a few things at uni, like I made a graphic notation, and then a friend of mine made a music piece that went to it, which was quite experimental. So I had kind of done a little bit of the experimental music side of things. I never really made films, but I had done a bit of photography. So I guess that kind of way of looking I had kind of like delved into. I was really set on that I would be doing ceramics in my final year of study, and it was, I guess, just the changes and coming home from Spain and being stuck in the house that kind of led me to this. And I just started playing around with music and taking videos of things because I was just really bored that it just kind of developed from that. So I'm really excited that I kind of got this opportunity and that I got to do something that I never would have thought that I would end up doing.
I think what you mentioned about the photographic elements really shine through in the film. You can tell it's coming from a photographer's eye, and then the combination of that with the ceramics works is very interesting. Had you always planned on incorporating the ceramic cast into the film, or is that something that developed later on?
I had a lot of different ideas about it, but it just kind of slowly came together, especially Introspection. I had literally no plan. I just kept kind of making things and experimenting, and that kind of said, you know, just experiment all you want and just see what happens. You know, if your end product isn't what you want it to be, don't worry. I had done in ceramics a work where I decided that because we were doing casting and I was making multiples, I didn't want to have all of these ceramic kind of glazed finished sticks because I was concerned about the environmental impact of it. So I kind of decided what could I do that kind of satisfied the brief. But I didn't have to end up with lots of things in the end that were kind of fired and I felt would go to waste. So I decided to start making ceramics that I could dissolve and return them to their original form, like in the slit. So I did that with sticks and I melted them and I took like a little time-lapse video of it, and it looked really cool as they like kind of melted, and I watched my months and months of work dissolve, which was also really sad, but it was a really kind of cool outcome. And then I kind of felt like that was my thing in ceramics, was doing these kind of impermanent sculptures, I guess. So then when I did Introspection, I really wanted to kind of play with and include that idea of like making something ceramic and then returning it and dissolving it to its original form. So I did that with my face. And I took a cast of my face, which was so hard. And then I dissolved that way, held it in Introspection because it was about like the dissolving of identity and the rebirth of a new one. And then with the body cast, that was my original plan with it, but in the end I felt like the idea of dissolving my body didn't quite work with the concept and the idea I was trying to display. So I really thought and ummed and ahed about like whether I would just display it as a sculpture or whether I would include it in the film. And then just like randomly one day I'd made these screens to show my film on and was standing behind them with a light, and then there were these shadows and I had all these casts. So then I just like recorded it and decided that it was kind of like an interesting like pulling off of the outer layer, and then I like played around and ripped them up and things like that, and then they ended up being shown on the floor with my work. It wasn't always my intention to show the ceramics with it, but I definitely wanted to continue to explore my casting and ceramics in my work, so it just kind of happened.
Do you think that that's something you will continue to combine as you move on in your practice, or you continue to combine ceramics and film together?
I would definitely like to. I think it won't necessarily work for every work. The last piece I did, I got a bit maybe stuck on the idea that I must include it in the work. I got there in the end, so it was fine, but I think I would definitely like to, but I won't include it in every future kind of film and sound work that I do.
And beyond the Nepal and honours degree, where are you thinking of heading?
That's a difficult question. Like I would love to get into like the arts community, and I guess helping with arts programs and getting other people to experience and enjoy the arts. I'm quite interested in education as well. Like I would love to work for the university. I love studying. I'm definitely an artist, but I definitely feel like I'm also really heading down the academic path and could see myself maybe doing like masters or PhD. So I would love to eventually one day work at the university. It would be really nice. I used to really think about the future and where I was heading, but now I'm just trying to kind of take it as it comes. Go to Nepal, focus on my music, focus on my art, and eventually, maybe head down these different routes, but I'm the most indecisive person ever, so we'll see what happens.
If you had one piece of advice for a fellow art student that was struggling with social anxiety and was struggling to make work, what would your advice be?
I would definitely say don't focus too much on the outcome, just like focus on experimenting and the journey, and just exploring whatever you want to explore. Especially I think social anxiety kind of feeds into it. Really worry about what people will think of what I do, worry about what the outcome will be, worry that the outcome won't be good enough, and then those ideas themselves kind of prevent you from making anything at all. And I definitely really struggled with that in my third year of study. So I think kind of like letting go and just experimenting with different things, and in the end it'll all work out. And if it doesn't, you tried, and that's what art is about. You can't always end up with the most amazing outcome. It's all about experimenting and trying new things. So definitely just don't get too caught up on how everything will turn out.
Cool. Thank you. I think that's all I've got to ask. Yeah, sweet, well done. So good. Good job. Yeah. You didn't have to redo anything, that was perfect.